What's up everyone, I'm Dave Mech and welcome to another video. And in this video I'm going to showcase the Model 1.4 by PlayDifferently. And this mixer is really special, I really love it, and I've been using it for about a year now, focusing on a new type of setup that I've been working on the past year. And I'll walk you through some of the things that I've connected to the Model 1.4 and how I routed things. I'm pretty much maxing it out completely, which might be interesting. And of course, I'll give you a couple of sound examples where you can really hear what the filters are doing, what the drive circuit is doing, and that sort of thing. I'm also going to explain what everything does, so you get a good idea of this mixer and why it is so nice. So this is the back of the Model 1.4. As you can see, we have a master out, XLR connectors, we have the booth out, jack connectors, we have 4 RCA stereo in for the channels, we have a D-sub in and D-sub out. D-sub in is for the 4 channels, so the return channels always have to be used with this, the regular jack inputs. And then we have the D-sub out, which consists of the return, the sends, aux sends 1 and 2, also the BQ is in there, and the master out, which is nice. We also have records out on the front panel, which is very nice, very welcome. Here we have link out and link in, and with these we can actually connect multiple Model 1 mixers together, which is pretty incredible. The PSU, which is sort of protected with this clicky PSU cable. Very nice. All feels very good. On-off switch, everything feels super solid. This is just incredible build quality, really. So let's talk a little bit about my setup, right? My setup consists of a pair cons, as you can see here. There's a digitone here. There's a push 3 and a couple of MIDI controllers. Those are not really important. I'm really focusing on the mixer, but it's good to know that how well this interconnects with something like a push 3 or other hardware, really, because I use the D-sub on the back, which has is basically 8 inputs on one connector, and this D-sub cable splits into 8 connectors, which are connected to the outputs of an audio interface, which is connected to the push 3 via ADAT, which is a digital connection, optical connection. I'm also using, as you can see, the return channels and the return inputs and the send outputs as well. And the send outputs go to the audio interface as well. The connections from the pair cons, which are 4 outputs I'm using of the pair cons, go into the audio interface as well. They go through ADAT into push, get processed, go to the output of the audio interface and back into the Model 1.4, and they land on these 4 channels. Also, the returns are coming from the push directly. So I have sends going to push with some nice FX chains there, and returning on these 2 channels on the Model 1.4. So you can see how the 4 channel setup and the 2 send returns really fit perfectly in whatever push 3 is offering. So that's really, really nice. So let's go over the front panel a little bit, right? So we have 2 stereo sends with a pre-fader on send 1. So the pre-fader, if I turn this on, the signal will be tapped pre-fader. If I turn this off, it will be tapped post-fader. So if I turn it up right now, this delay can't be heard. If I turn this in, I can actually add, which can be cool for this sort of effect. Which is quite nice. Cool. So that's where it is. Would have been nice to have this on this option on the second sender as well, but I guess the thing with this mixer is that it's good to know it's really, really cramped. Like if you would open up this front panel and look inside, it's just all hardware, completely filled up. Just there's no room left. So I'm pretty sure that there are probably multiple reasons why there's no extra pre-fade for the second aux send. Anyway, let's move on. So we have the second send, in which I have a nice delay, and you can see that they return on the returner 1 and 2 channels. So we have a trim knob where we can determine how loud this should come in. And you can actually drive this, which adds some nice clipping to this return channel, which is pretty cool. You can cue it, which is nice. So you can cue the return channel. We have a level, obviously, which is pretty much sort of a fader without it being a fader. And we have a return 1 to low cut, which is a 6 dB per octave slope filter with a -3 dB point at 320 hertz. So it starts really early, like around 1 kilohertz already. It starts sort of this gentle slope down. And it's very, very useful. I always have this on so that the delay is not really clogging up the low end. In this case, I also have a similar thing running in Push itself with an EQ, but it's nice to have this as an additional roll-off. If you're using just hardware, a hardware delay, for instance, then this option is even more useful, of course. So, pretty full-featured for such a small footprint. So, the second return, same story, and then we have the return 1 to master filter, so we can actually filter the delay in this case, or reverb. And you can already hear that this filter is really, really nice. And it's actually a low-pass filter and high-pass filter. The high-pass filter is resonant. We have this dedicated resonance knob for it, I mean. And low-pass filter is fairly gentle, but it has a very nice sound. They chose a very nice resonance for that. It's fixed, but it's nice. So if we set this to flat, we can actually have a listen. So let's listen to this. This is a high-pass filter with resonance at max. Cool thing about this resonance is, so at minimum, it progressively changes as I turn down the high-pass filter counterclockwise to flat. The reason is to protect PA systems and whatnot, but it's actually also very useful to not have to constantly use the two knobs at the same time, which is a kind of a problem on the DB4. I always have to make sure that I turn the resonance knob together with the filter to not completely distort the system. If at low frequencies with the high Q, things can become quite loud. It boosts the low frequencies, which in a club system can be way too much. So you can hear here it's not self-oscillating. It's very resonant, and the lower we go, and I mean, That's actually beautiful. And the cool thing is, sure, it's apparently it's because of protection, but it actually sounds great. It's just this automatic. Really nice. And this filter is actually, it's like you can hear as well, but it's very nice to boost the low end a little bit in specific areas to really get a nice oomph out of it. Certainly with a live set like mine, if I set the decay time to kick a bit shorter. Can actually boost the low end now. This is without. It's nice. I like it. So that is the filter, and the cool thing about the filter is that it's a passive filter, and apparently there's less distortion. It sounds cleaner, so that's nice. So the master filter also has, of course, this on and off button, so I can activate the individual channels and route them to the master filter, and then turn on and off the filter, right? And this has a zero crossing detection circuit. So that means that it will detect the zero crossing point when you engage it. This is why there's almost no clicking when I turn it on and off, which is great. There's one downside of this. There's one downside to this. Let me turn down this channel and turn it up. So if I increase this channel very slowly, I'm gonna turn down the low pass, close the low pass filter a little bit, so it's really audible. So this is our complete signal, right? There it kicks in. See, now you can hear the filter kick in when the signal becomes loud enough. Of course, there needs to be some sort of threshold where the zero crossing detection kicks in. So I get it. And if you really want to, filter in a filtered signal, use the sculpt. Just so you know that it's there. To me, it's not a big problem. I never have this an issue with it, but you might. So it's good to know. Here we have a line input and phono switch, which is we can switch between line or phono and D-sub. So the phono switch is here at the back. We can actually shift this to phono with this little red button on the back. And then this switches between phono and D-sub. So in my case, I'm using D-sub. So all these are depressed. And I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but these two are brighter than these two. I don't know if that's deliberate or that's just a little bad luck on my side. But yeah, it's a bit weird. But, I don't really care about it that much because it's still symmetric. It won't really, hurt my feelings in whatever way. We have a trim, which we can really drive really nicely. So together with this drive knob. And what the drive knob does is actually lowering the headroom of the channel and thereby getting nice clipping distortion. It's a fully analog mixer, so we get very nice clipping distortion, right? And I can demonstrate this. This noise, by the way, is coming from my Paracons through push, which has a lot of has some compression added to it and stuff. So there's a little bit of noise there. It's not the mixer, just so you know. So if this is our signal, right? And if I turn the drive up, we are actually lowering the signal, and you can also hear that there's some gain compensation added as well. And if I turn it completely clockwise, you get very distorted sound, of course, and we can push this even further by turning the trim up. And of course the input loudness also has influence on this. So you can really go bonkers and completely distort your signal, right? But let's keep things a little bit tidy. And I'm actually gonna set it like this. Now slowly bring it back. This. Now it's a bit hard to A/B. I'm not gonna do a very thorough A/B comparison. If you would like to see such a thing where I really do an A/B comparison like I did before with some end of chain devices for your mastering your live set, let me know. I might make a video about this, like showing how it reduces the peak level, what it does to the sound, and really level matching it to really get a good idea of, does it sound more punchy? Does it sound fatter, nicer, warmer, whatever, right? But to me, just so, this is very clean, obviously. And this is a bit pretty. And it has some nice punch to it. You can also set it a little bit more subtle. You can actually see this blink up every time there's clipping. But in this case, this clipping is a good thing, because we get some nice analog distortion. Saturation, I should say. See, so. Cool. So I really like that sound. It's a clever solution as well to add some drive effect to a mixer like this. It's just by lowering the headroom, because the headroom on these channels is immense. So here we see the peak level above the +9, right? But the actual headroom is +20 dB, which is bonkers. So we can I can just turn this up like this, and it's still clean. It says speaking, but it's still clean. And I could even push the input level further to make it clip way more, and it will stay clean for a long time. It's very nice. So there's immense headroom, and this is where this drive knob comes in handy if you want that channel clipping distortion. Cool. So let's move on. Further down, we have the contour section. One of two. This one is a low pass filter. This one is a high pass filter. And this is where the Play Differently mixer really sets itself apart, because this EQ section, filter section, really is completely different from any other DJ mixer or mixer in general, really. We have a low pass filter and a high pass filter, and this, they call it a semi-parametric EQ filter. So this actually has a very wide Q bell curve with a very wide range of 670 hertz to 7 kilohertz, and a cut of -20 dB and a boost of +8 dB. And it's super useful to sculpt your sound. That's why it's also called sculpt, right? But so if we cut this a little bit around, let's say 200, 300 hertz, which is often a problematic area certainly in live sets with a lot of different hardware without any proper EQing, this becomes super useful. So I'll do a sweep. I'm setting it to -20. You can really hear it's almost like a nice, very subtle phase effect. And a boost. can hear that the range, the bell curve has a very wide Q. So, super nice. So, on this channel, for instance, I can pick out certain frequencies like this to really stand out. Sneeze. But if we listen to it flat, I might think it's a bit too much in lower mids. So I cut that out a little bit. Give more room to the beat. There we go. Nice. And of course, on a synth channel like this, and this is actually coming from the Digit Zone, that's so nice to have this distortion on this channel, because I can just really drive the very digital Digit Zone, make it very gritty. And maybe there's a little bit too much low end in this signal, which overwhelms the kick maybe, and I can just use this filter, high-pass filter, to get that out of the way a little bit. In this case it's actually fine, but... And of course you can make it darker for a little bit. And this is on top of the master filter, right? So we still have very nice. Yeah, the Q section, and we have two of them, an A and a B, and we have dedicated Q buttons for them. Now, personally, I don't use queuing during a live set. I just throw stuff in and see what happens, more or less. I kind of know what I'm doing, but it's of course still, there's this edge of a risk, and I really like it. And also, I don't want to be queuing during my live set, because it takes my vibe away, or the flow away. So having dedicated buttons for each is very nice, though. Good to know is that the A Q side has a switching system. So as you engage a Q on a channel, it cancels the other automatically. There's no way of turning this on or on. This is always the case for the AQ section. On the Q section B, this is not the case. So here we can activate multiple at the same time. So section B is actually very useful to use as an extra send. You could use this as an extra send and have the return come in on a different channel, for instance, which is pretty cool. So the BQ is fairly simple. It has a 1/4 inch and a 3.5 millimeter headphone outputs, which you can use simultaneously, actually, a shared level for that. Same thing on the QA, two headphone outputs, and level. And here we have a cue and mix, mix, but source knob, and split cue button, which will split the cue on the left headphone cup and the mix on the right one, and you can pan between them when this is activated. Otherwise, it's just a mix between cue and mix. Very useful. B you can use as an extra send, so that's nice. Or you can play with two people at the same time on the same mixer and cue like that. So that's nice. Then the next section is the master section, and the master section boasts again immense headroom. So we have 28 dB of headroom on the master out, which is quite a lot. So you can really push it and still be safe. If you push it too far, it will just distort in a sort of pleasing way. The manual states that you do have to keep in mind that you might overwhelm the PA system, which is interesting because it's really dependent on the master volume, which doesn't influence the metering at all, as you can see. So even if I'm pushing this like this into distortion, I could turn this off and it still peaks, right? So it's a bit weird that the manual states this, but just keep your levels in a certain way that it doesn't activate the PA system's limiter or destroys your speakers or whatever, and especially your ears and the audience ears. That's the most important thing. But having said that, it's good to know that this is not a digital mixer. Digital distortion is horrible and also dangerous. It can really destroy people's ears. So please don't go into the reds on digital mixers. But here, in this case, stay in the reds or the orange. Maybe hit the peak every now and then. It's fine. Underneath the main, the master meter and level, we have a dedicated EQ section for the master, which is great, with a high frequency shelf, a low frequency shelf, and a very wide bell curved mid frequency cut and boost, which is around 1 kilohertz, and it's a very wide bell curve. It is quite nice. I really wish that for live sets I would have loved a high frequency and a low frequency, or a parametric EQ even, so I can do the same thing where it's always around 200, 300, 400 hertz. Those frequency ranges are very difficult in a live situation. I'm always looking for ways to cut a little bit there, but we have the parametric EQs on the channels themselves, so that's already sufficient, but it would have been nice to have that here as well. Sounds great as well. You can use it as an effect, as it affects the main out, the record out, and the booth out all at the same time. That has to do with the location of this EQ section. So you can actually use it as a sort of an effect, like cutting. Or pretty cool. Can be nice. So, and then we have the booth EQ here with a high boost and a low boost. Pretty simple, but it can actually be very nice to have that. The one thing that I am missing from this mixer, but again, it's completely cramped with analog circuitry, so I'm sure there was simply no room to add this, is a master insert. I would have loved to add a mastering device like a boom or the IMC or both. As a master insert, so that you can actually have that signal into your booth as well. Now you have to sort of split it or have a way of monitoring through one of those mastering devices. That's kind of good to know. So then, last but not least, the overall feel of this mixer is high grade. So the build quality is awesome. Every knob feels very, very solid. The resistance on these knobs is very well chosen, so you can really dial in precisely what you want. Feels really solid, everything. Just all the knobs are very nice. Even these and this little drive thing is a little bit quirky, I guess, but I mean, there's only so much room that you have. So this is actually... it's nice that they even added this. Like that's how I would put it. And it's actually once you're used to it, it's easy to grab and turn because there's a little bit of a rigid edge to it. So it's easy to grab and turn. It's not as easy as this, right? But still, I do like it though. So overall feel, faders, very nice. I think it's an exponential curve. You can actually hear that it stays fairly quiet. And then from here on out, it becomes much louder. And yeah, that is very personal if you like that or not. There's no way to switch it to other curves, but you can do this. So it's very quick to mix with and turn the things down and up. And they do feel very solid, so they are very precise. See? Yeah, overall, build quality is very solid, and I'm sure this is going to last me a long time. So this is the mixer. I really enjoy it. It sounds incredible, and I hope this overview was nice, and I hope the sound examples gave you a good idea of what this thing sounds like when you push it a little bit and stuff, and the filters and that sort of thing, because that's where the real sound is, of course. And of course, the analog summing is also incredible. And you will hear this when I mix this quite bass-heavy synth together with this kick and bass combination and the hi-hat. Let me mute the hi-hat.